So, hi, everybody. Welcome. This is my amazing panel, and I'll just introduce them across the board. Next to me, I'm really very amazed, I have to say. Next to me, I have Michael Gelman, who is executive producer live with Kelly and Mark. And I've talked to Gelman for years. I've never actually met you in person. It's very lovely to have you. Next to him, we have Suzanne Prett, is executive vice president. It's Prett, right? Pretty. Oh, that's confusing. Pretty, executive vice president, head of games at Sony Pictures Television, and was just telling me how games are her passion. So she does an amazing job. Next to her, Jason Kurtz, executive producer of the Drew Barrymore Show. And Jason, my joke I've been saying today is that I dress like Drew Barrymore to honor you. I didn't do it on purpose. And then this morning I was like, oh, I look like Drew. And then Stephen Brown, Executive Vice President of Programming and Development. He brought his own crowd. Yeah, for Fox First Run and Fox Television Station. So what we're talking about today, building a breakout hit in a multi-platform world. We're also just going to talk about like where we're at in the business of syndication, but the programming of syndication, which everybody on this panel knows is kind of grows increasingly challenged every year. The thing to me that's always differentiated daytime from primetime, and I think it's interesting, a lot of times in the world of syndication, like some story will come out and those stories get the most clicks of anything. Or you'll see people write about like The View that gets tons of clicks and you think, who even watches this show? But these are the shows that people are very engaged in, and I think it's because they think the hosts are their friends. So you guys, can you talk about, and actually I'll start with you, Gelman, since you're next to me and since you guys have been doing this for so long, but do you think today in daytime that's still true considering how fragmented the audiences are? And what kinds of things do you do to make sure that the audiences stay engaged with your hosts?
Well, from the very beginning, our concept was sort of like a reality show before there were reality shows, where we were revealing ourselves, as people to the audience in a way that wasn't being done on television at the time. And with these syndicated shows that are 5 days a week, you do really create a relationship. So our key was always kind of to keep it as real as possible, let the personality of the hosts, which have changed over the years, but really we try to produce for those hosts and really reinforce that connection with the audience. And in this day and age with social media, it's even easier to kind of connect in a way that's more than just for the 1 hour, and that's deepen the relationship. And so I think it's much easier for shows like mine and shows that have been on the air for so long that have created that before the world was so fragmented. So people know who we are. We're part of pop culture. They know Kelly. They want to know more. And in this day of reality TV, they're even more engaged because we're more real than most reality TV. So they're talking about things that actually happen. They're not created just for an on-air bit.
And then let me jump to Jason, because I think this is a very important part of what Drew does, and I think it's something you guys have kind of drilled down on too. But can you talk a little bit about developing Drew and that relationship with the audience?
Of course, yeah. I don't think we had to develop it all that much because she came, she's a movie star, she's a household name, and she came with 15 million followers on Instagram. So we had a leg up. So it really was just bringing her into everyone's home every day, Monday through Friday, and creating a show that really just, like Gelman's saying, you create a show that's unfiltered. And Drew is the perfect talent for that because she doesn't hold anything back. And she is truly herself, and exactly what you're watching every day is who she is. So, it's easy. It's easy as a producer when you have a talent like that. And it was just about creating an ecosystem between broadcast and digital that sort of just highlights all the amazing things about the talent.
So, and then also when you guys were developing Drew, I remember, so this is season 4 for Drew, and I feel like you guys were very digital first from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how you developed what you do digitally around Drew's personality and also how it ties into the broadcast?
I think we learned early on that if you create digital forward content and broadcast, you can win. So that's what we've always tried to use as our North Star. So again, Drew is unfiltered. She interviews celebrities unlike any other host. It's very raw. And those are the moments that travel. And we learned that very quickly. So it wasn't hard for us to sort of start creating moments and putting her in situations to create moments that were going to travel virally.
Can you think of an example off the top?
When Allison Williams was on promoting her movie Megan, which was about a doll, we had the idea of putting Drew in the costume of Megan and leaning into Drew as an actress and sort of her sense of humor. And she entered the stage and sat down as Megan the doll and started the interview that way. And it was, traveled way beyond broadcast and became, a TikTok sensation. And then from there, we created, her birthday episode that, followed. And she was a huge fan of You, the Netflix series. So we created a glass box like the series and put her in there with a blindfold, and Penn Badgley walked out. We knew that was going to be a viral moment.
Stephen, do you think that now when you're developing shows that that's how you need to think? Like at Fox, is that how you think? What can we do first digitally, or what can we do first to create a 24/7 brand?
No, I think we think first of broadcast, and then if something resonates, it resonates. But I think that for us, we need to engage digitally with our audience, but in a different way. I don't think, we have clips of divorce court that go viral, but that's, that's natural. We clip it, put it on, it resonates. But we don't think that way. We don't purposely say, let's create a digital thing first or this is going to definitely go viral. We can't think that way. We're broadcasters. So.
Okay. And then, so for Suzanne, who oversees Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and other games, those shows are interesting, I think, because they're obviously format-based shows. But then the whole thing with Alex, you realize how personality-driven it actually was. So now you've seen change, obviously, at Jeopardy, and we're going to see change pretty quickly at Wheel next year. So when you're thinking about that relationship with the viewers, how do you think about it with these format-driven shows?
Well, the thing about both of those shows, they're extremely personal to our viewers. If we change a shade of blue on the set, our viewers let us know they've noticed and they don't like it. So, we're very sensitive to the viewers, and we evolve the program very carefully. I think with our new producer on Jeopardy, he's done such a phenomenal job.
You should name him
Michael Davies. He is lightning in a bottle. I think we've taken the show in a different direction. The focus has changed. We're really modernizing the material. It's, we keep the level of excellence. It has to be the highest level of excellence, making it relevant for all of our viewers. But we're very focused now on cultivating our super champs. And I think we've seen that with Madame Modio and Amy Schneider and others. And we're finding equity in those players and telling those stories. And I'm excited about that direction. And then it feeds so nicely into the tournaments and then on our primetime shows on ABC. With Wheel of Fortune, we have another phenomenal opportunity with Ryan coming in. I may have done cartwheels when he agreed to do the show. Gelman knows, having worked with him.
I was going to say, Gelman, did you want to give her any advice?
I already gave her advice about his bad texting. That is very hard to interpret. I think he likes to do the voice to text and then doesn't check it.
No.
I should help you out.
That's already, I've come away from this a winner, having gotten some inside scoop. But with Ryan too, I think he's going to connect so beautifully with our audience, and then just give us an opportunity to build on another fan base. And with his relationship with Vanna, they have already this amazing chemistry. I'm really excited about that. But also our social strategy is very strong on Jeopardy. We're we're intentionally producing new content, not just clips from the show, but rich content. We have a podcast, Inside Jeopardy, and we're really doubling down on that strategy, and our fans love to engage. And on Wheel of Fortune, we have a loyalty program with over 4 million subscribers who engage with the shows. They want to know what's going on. These shows are so personal to them.
It's interesting though, because making your super champs personalities, which I do, that's definitely happened. But that's sort of taking that same philosophy of your host as the friend, but then turning Nadamodio and Amy Schneider and who's the poker player? James Holzhauer. Yeah. So, I mean, all those people are household names except for me who can't remember. But yeah. No, I think that's the whole key to daytime. But let me go back to Gelman and say, what do you think are sort of the advantages of being in, I mean, you guys are really day and date. The advantages of that and what are the disadvantages of that? And especially with the way how people watch TV has changed.
Well, being day and date gives you an immediacy that is somewhat of a superpower in terms of, you're generally talking about things that are happening now. And in an age where you can, watch anything at any time, it gives a little extra motivation to be watching it live and at 9:00. And there's just an excitement about it that brings it to a different level, and being in New York and being able to do that in that way really gives the show something special.
Do you feel like with live that it's one of the few shows that still sort of drives that kind of audience? Because everybody knows it's on at 9 and it's been there for so long.
Yeah, we're generally at the same time in most markets. I mean, there's a little bit of variation, but it just seems to fit that time period. And in the early days, we experimented with putting it in afternoons at 3:00, at 4:00. In those days, there was Oprah that, no one wanted to go against that, but there's higher levels in the afternoon, but really it's just a great fit right there. It's counter programming to, what's been going on with news. We're bringing kind of joy and happiness and laughs and, something that you can engage with, but don't have to be fully engaged with. And so people know what they're getting. And that's been one of our keys to keep it on brand and to keep it, timely, during a time when other shows may not be able to do that.
Same question for you, Jason. You guys aren't quite as day and date as live, but fairly.
Yeah, we started live because we launched in the pandemic and felt we needed to be able to react in real time to what was happening in the world and not be irresponsible with what we were programming. But we quickly learned that it was better for us to go to a taped show. So we had the beauty of editing. But we try to turn our shows quick enough so we're still reacting to what's happening in the world. We also learned that Drew's unique style of interviewing needed a little bit more of a runway. And also we learned that, when she has a little bit of a naughty side, so we can pull those pieces out and use them for digital. So we realized it was such a benefit to be able to tape and edit.
Can you talk a little bit, you mentioned Drew's interview style. Was that her interview style from the beginning, or is that something that you sort of cultivated as you went? How did that emerge?
50-50. I mean, she, definitely approached interviews different than I think a lot of producers approach them, because she was very well researched on her own without the team. She would take everything home and consume it, which was incredible. So she would always come in with her own questions and her own point of view. And it was really amazing to collaborate with her and figure out the path we were going to take. But she also was on the other side for so long. So she knew how to be the guest and then quickly learned how to be the host, to really sort of get in there and have a conversation. It was never, here are the 4 questions, here are their pre-produced answers. She always wanted to go in as fresh as possible. And we did our best to create an environment for her so she could really just have that runway and have a conversation. And I think that's what's so special about it.
How have your guests responded to that? Because then they're also not getting the benefit of being prepared necessarily.
If a guest comes in and they want to be prepared because that's what they're used to, of course, we respect that. For, I would say 99% of the time, people are leaving saying, wow, that was so different. I felt like I've never had an experience like that. Please let me know when we can come back. So it really is, people leave very happy and sort of, like, I think, appreciate the difference.
So, Stephen, at Fox, you have sort of an interesting mix because I feel like Fox is very live and day and date driven on one hand, but you also do a lot of shows that are sort of group, all those games are group shot so you can get, so that they're more efficient. So, but can you sort of talk about the pros and cons of both models?
Yeah. So, Dish Nation is a show that we do that's day and date. So that's, we understand that. There's a great value to keeping that within the Fox, which you said, just like a lot of our programming is day and date. The problem is it doesn't have a long tail. So when you're talking about economics, there's no value to Dish Nation 3 days from now, right? Because we've already talked about it. But there is great value to something like Divorce Court, where we make twice as much money from the broadcast revenues than we do, or in digital than we do on broadcast. So that is what we have to be thinking about, especially with games. Games have a longer life because they can play on Game Show Network in another run. They can play on the Fast Channel in another run. We have a great partnership with Pluto and CBS for Pictionary and 25 words or less. So that's what we need to be focused on when we develop new shows.
So same question for you, Suzanne. When you're looking at your brands, Wheel, Jeopardy, and other brands, how do you think about them in terms of the long tail?
Well, I mean, I think for us, like Stephen said, game shows do have a life after their initial run, and we're having great success with that. We've got library episodes on Pluto as well, and they're doing very well. And when we look at new models, we're looking at the tail of the show, other ways to, other economies and other ways to monetize those shows. I mean, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, they're sort of in a class of themselves because they're just so iconic and part of the cultural fabric. But even so, we have our spin-off strategy, and that's really to audience-proof the shows, and they're done with intention to garner new audiences so that we have, the libraries have value.
So can you talk a little bit about, because you've done these spin-off shows or these tournaments on ABC, things like that. How are you working with ABC as a partner in that endeavor?
Well, for Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy in particular, they're a strong partner. We signed I think you covered it, Paige, the 5-year deal with them, which was unprecedented. And so we're on the ABC stations. And then we've got a great partner in the unscripted world with Rob Mills. He's a game show lover, and especially Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. So it gives us an opportunity to grow the brands with intention. On Wednesday nights right now, Sony owns basically Wednesday night programming on ABC with Celebrity Wheel, Celebrity Jeopardy, and Pyramid, and they're solid performers. And I think the stations have come to realize that these primetime versions, there's a halo effect for them in syndication. More viewers is a good thing.
Yeah, I always wonder with Wheel and Jeopardy, these things that you guys have done in the past 3 years or so, like, what took you so long? It makes, I think it makes tons of sense, right? And then I wonder if you'll see it across other games.
I think sensitivity to the brand itself and not wanting to be very intentional and not wanting to dilute the brand. We've seen that happen with other brands, with other game shows. And
it's called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
But we're highly protective of the brands. You can imagine how many people, they're the number 1 and number 2 shows on TV across all. I have to brag just a little bit because the numbers are so staggering. Half America watches these 2 shows. And so it adds up to something like 2.4 billion hours of watching a year. So, everything we do is intentional, and we don't greenlight every opportunity that comes our way, even though it seems like it could be a short-term gain.
Because you don't want to tick off the partners, your station partners.
Right. And also being very sensitive to our partners. They've paid a lot for these shows, and there's a lot of respect there.
So are you finding that your partners are realizing there's a benefit to you if these shows are getting expanded in Prime? They're not finding that that's stepping on their toes at all?
We've evolved.
Yeah. I think that's true across the board. It used to be, it has to be very exclusive to stations, and everybody sort of realized that model doesn't work. So how can we expand? I'm going to go back to Stephen. One thing I know you wanted to talk about, and I think it's interesting, is incorporating more interactivity with your shows. And so could you just talk a little bit about the things that you guys are doing?
Yeah, we kind of took a page from what Gelman does on Live. And it's like rewarding the viewer, and playing games with them, right? So we have on all of our game shows, we have a watch, win, and play element. You guys are doing that. We have super fans where we interview on Person, Place, or Thing, and Meredith's show, 25 Words Less, where we interview our celebrities, actually our fans. And if one of our teams win, they win money as well. So, and then we're doing a lot of QR code activation which was kind of interesting because the guy before us was talking about that, but QR code activation where you can watch behind the scenes content. So instead of going to commercial, when you go to commercial, we keep the cameras rolling and you can keep watching what's going on, and then we create bespoke content to reward the audience. I think we've got old people watching, and we've got to reward them and say, thank you for being with us. Here's more of what you like. And we do that digitally, but we have to do that in order to, we're doubling down on those viewers, keeping them on linear and saying, please stick with us.
Gelman, how long have you guys been doing that? Those kinds of things?
Well, we've had the at-home trivia game since, the very beginning, since it was a 1-800 call-in line, and we were local, like a radio station.
Since 1942.
So we didn't invent that interactivity. But for so many years, broadcast TV was really a one-way medium. Like, we put the signal out there, millions of people see it, and the only way to respond was either fan mail or complaint mail that came weeks later, and usually you knew if you got one complaint, it meant 100 people really felt that way. So with the advent of all these digital platforms, we really have embraced it, and we have every day, we have people reacting in real time, and then we're reading, whether it's a tweet or an X, whatever you call it, Facebook or Instagram, or, they'll still email us, and we'll be interacting with viewers that way. And we've embraced, user generated content in a huge way, that they're sending it in real time. Sometimes it's, something longer term. Instead of just having like our live trivia dancer, we'll have people, at home. And obviously during the pandemic, when we were all doing this in a way, we didn't miss one show. We reacted over a week of vacation, and next thing you know, we were doing it, through a control room, and everyone was at home, and you were doing it in a way that people were still engaged by Zoom, and we're still using those techniques. But people like it studio based, but they also, when you're at home, it's an unbelievable advantage with that connection to be able to interact. And with the game, the trivia game, and we've expanded that, with our new Stump Mark game, which now has become like a even bigger part of the show because people are so engaged with just interacting with the hosts. So it's not just talking to these celebrities, which has been more difficult during these times, but it's also, people want to talk to the people on TV, and they want to see other people interacting in that way. And that's kind of a melding of kind of the digital environment with broadcast.
It's interesting because probably the idea of interacting hasn't changed at all since you started, but it's just the method of interacting.
Exactly.
So,
but it's also, I'm going to just double down on what he's saying. It's also philosophy, right? Instead of what Gelman was saying, it was like broadcasting and we're going one way. It has to be a conversation. A conversation is more meaningful. It's richer. It means I'm engaged, and it means you're going to be a loyal friend. They're already our friends, they're fans, but we want them to be bonded to us. And the only way to do that is to talk to them.
Okay, so Jason, let's bring you in here since obviously this is something you guys have done also since you first began. Can you just talk a little bit about how you approach it and how Drew approaches it? And then Drew also has her own voice on social media, sort of separate from the show. So how do you sort of work around that or with that?
We work hand in hand. And honestly, and she is such a great partner. She opens herself up. We collaborate on all our posts, specifically on Instagram. So it is sort of one ecosystem, like I said earlier. We try not to make a big distinction between the show's handles and her handles. Again, we try to create a conversation between the viewers and Drew, but her interaction is best captured in person. And a lot of the pieces that go viral are when she's just in a commercial break talking to an audience member. I mean, just this week, she connected with someone over divorce. And they had a very beautiful conversation. And, we shared it with our audience and it, got picked up and was shared and had a lot of love online. And that's really how we sort of show the connection. And we hope that our followers and viewers feel that connection and feel themselves in that person that she personally connected with. And that's been a lot of the success that we find online, is that pure, raw Drew who has no veneers and is just connecting with people online. I mean, last week we had, I think, almost 2 billion impressions between just 4 or 5 clips that we released, both with celebrity guests, but the real moments that she connects with viewers. And this one viewer was a flight attendant who was working a flight the first time Drew was on a plane sober. And that person happened to be in the audience. And they had this beautiful moment. And it was just something we had to share with the audience. And that's where we're looking to make the connection points.
So you might resent this question, so you can pass if you want. But can you monetize those 2 billion impressions?
Trying.
Yeah. Okay.
And honestly, that's the next phase, and that's really what we're looking to do. Syndication is a forever changing model, and for a new show, you have to be flexible. And one of the things that we did going into season 3 is we made the show, we left our hour format behind and broke it into 2 half hours, so that we could be flexible in the marketplace. And it also helped us lean further into sort of the digital vibe that we were trying to create, because the pacing increased. There was no room for shoe leather, so we had to get to content quickly, which obviously services the viewers. So we work hard at sort of creating a cohesion between all the platforms, including broadcast. But one of the missions this year is to monetize digital.
So it's interesting with Drew, because you guys have been, I feel like every year has been a whole new journey. Like you start off, like pandemic, and it's been so. But the half hour move, you feel like that's been, and I know you guys were very happy with it last year, but
absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to say about it that has contributed to the show that you weren't expecting?
I think it was a good move. I mean, we were in Austin last week shooting with Formula One, and spent some time with the station manager there, and she thanked myself and Drew because she was like, it gives us the flexibility, with the broken half hour, so we can have more control over our own stations and where things live. So that was nice to hear. And the viewers clearly liked it, because I think our ratings popped like 65% in season 3.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to interactivity. So for you, Suzanne, obviously Wheel and Jump are very interactive, even as broadcast vehicles, because you play along, but you've got wheel watchers and there's some other things that you do. But in light of all this technology, what are some things that you guys are doing with the games to make them more interactive, more sticky?
I think, you asked about monetizing social engagement, and I think where we're having a lot of success there is with our advertisers and integration partners, because that's where we can offer more exposure, interaction with our partners, and our fans love it too. So we're having a lot of success leveraging those platforms. And I think we have to, especially in today's economics and climate, be able to offer our advertisers additional incentives to be part of the show, even shows as successful as Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. So just to follow up on that question, as far as keeping the shows fresh and you know, everybody here, I was really appreciating what Stephen was saying about engagement. Fans want to engage. Viewers want to engage. Our buyers tell us this. Our research tells us this. We just did a show for CBS in primetime called Raid the Cage. And I think I was telling you, we were so focused on audience engagement. We had our premiere party and there were a couple hundred people there and they were screaming at the screen when the contestants were raiding the cage for prizes and jumping out of the doors. That's what we want to see. That's what the viewers want. They want a connection.
They want a riot at the cage. No.
And you're going to get one.
The old school, which still really works, is the live studio audience. So when you can't engage at home, to see, we're very active engaging with the live studio audience because that kind of, shows the audience at home this interaction with real people, not just the celebrities, in a way that people relate to at home. And so whether it's that or it's doing, an Instagram live, for a half hour before the show, for one of our tentpoles like Halloween, those kinds of things will not only promote the broadcast, but then, it goes both ways. The broadcast is promoting the digital and the digital promoting the broadcast.
Stephen, do you feel like monetizing social is something that's happening for you guys and that you're looking to do?
No. No, not at all. And I think that's, that's rare when you can do it. You've got to have many, many millions of followers and then engage your brand. I think when we do integrations and brand deals, it's an added on. It's an, oh, by the way, we've got this to kind of sweeten the pot. But in our world, no, they're not. That's not the way we're looking at it. It's an engagement in a different way. I think a lot of times when you're doing social, you always have to think about the ROI. How am I getting somebody to come back to whatever platform, whether it be Pluto or Game Show Network or the broadcast, to watch the show? That's where we make the money. We don't make it on social.
But I think that what you're saying there is interesting, though, in that syndication has gotten much more and is getting much more multi-platform in that way. So you might not be monetizing against social, but perhaps you are monetizing against these different platforms.
Sure.
But although, like, Drew and Live, that's not so much. Well, even maybe for, like, Wheel and Jep, you guys are all pretty broadcast. That's your definite focus of platform. So I just always wonder with new shows coming up, how can you slice and dice?
Right. It's hard to make that money on the digital platforms. I mean, broadcast is still the main driver, but we're always looking, and you were saying with integrations especially, it's a huge value added, and some people are coming to us just for that. And, it's something that's growing, but really, the focus is broadcast right now.
Yeah, as it should be. Okay, so I have to wrap up. This went very quickly. I'm going to ask
We started so late.
Was it that late? Anyway, I'm going to ask you down the line, which is just looking ahead like a year. Is there anything that comes to your mind? I'll start with Stephen actually and work my other way back. Is there anything that comes to your mind that you think that you're particularly looking forward to, what you think is particularly exciting, is something that's coming up that you're interested in?
Yes. Before I get to the answer to that, I do want to say that I'm very bullish on syndication. I think it's going to be around.
Why?
Because there's a need.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically on our stations, we have duopolies in most of our markets. We have to fill that time. CBS has the same issues, right? They have to fill. They're not going to do it with news. And then stations in the middle of the country or wherever in smaller markets that don't have news need to fill that 24 hours. And they're going to do it with our content. We have to provide it at a price point that's reasonable or at a barter deal that's reasonable to them. But we're going to be, as long as there's a local station, there's going to be syndication. So I'm 100% in on that.
And just to add in, I also think with FAST and so forth, like you've got all that much more space to fill. So
FAST right now is a false promise, right? Everybody says, get in fast, get in fast. What we're seeing is that these platforms take half of the money. They're not filling the ad load. And when they do, it's with a lousy CPM. Broadcast is where your money is, right? So fast is a future, but right now, that gold rush, there's nothing there.
Okay.
So what I'm excited about, developing shows that are much more live and much more interactive.
For Jason.
I'm looking forward to continuing the success that we earned last year.
Like I said, you're looking forward to just having a normal year.
I am. Not gonna lie. The word pivot is a dirty word around our group these days. So we're happy to have great partners that believed in us, renewed us year after year. We were able to find success last year, so we're really looking forward to continuing honing in on all the elements that made us successful last year.
Suzanne, well, you've got Ryan coming up next year, so that's one thing.
That's the obvious answer, and that's in a whole different category. But really, to echo what Stephen was saying, I'm excited about developing and producing more content. Sony, we don't have a platform. Our focus is we're laser focused. We are an entertainment studio. We produce for anyone, anywhere. And we're fortunate, and I'm specifically fortunate as leading the game show division, to have this incredible game show library that I can mine and produce phenomenal content for these stations and do it in a way that's cost effective for them. But we've got a lot of great content that we're working on. I think we're going to see a lot of success.
So we should be looking for some of that content coming to syndication perhaps in 2024 and beyond.
Yes.
Okay. Watch that space. All right, sir. You're really looking forward to skiing.
I am looking forward to skiing this winter, but and seeing you in Colorado, I'm really looking forward to leaning into our new host team, Kelly and Mark. Mark's been part of the family, and our whole show is kind of based on this family concept, which the audience connects with. And for so many years, it was a kind of a faux husband and wife, and their celebrity friends came over for coffee. And now it's a real husband and wife, and it's perfect in this world. And they've been hitting it out of the park, and so have the producers. And so we're looking forward to more and more success with that, and the audience is responding. So we're looking forward to the rest of the season.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you guys so much. We're going to stay.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.